Ready? Is it gonna be in the
In
audio?
sync. Oh, you'd have to do it like close to your microphone.
Three, two, one. Not very good.
Ah,
I didn't do
dang
it all the
it.
way.
Oh no.
You spill.
Yeah, this one was so fizzy. It like came out the top. Whatever. Okay. Anyways, welcome back to I don't even know what.
Let's talk ball.
Yeah.
This
I'm
is
like in
episode
the
two.
crack of the couch. I need yeah, technically, because the last episode was also I feel like I'll mostly do these with you because I feel like most of my other friends are not very tuned into the world of sport.
I
But
feel
we'll
like
do
that's the same for hockey though. For
yeah.
the sister show.
But I feel like I can pull like someone random to be into hockey, you know?
Fair. Or you're just into hockey enough that
Yeah,
it
like
works
it
for both
compensates.
parties.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
compensates for the other person not. I think that it's finally like I can finally think about stuff other than hockey now that like this hockey cafe is done and then also now that like the draft has happened, so like trade season's dying down a little bit. So I feel like that'll also help for me to be more tapped into things like the World Cup. Which even like the World Cup there was just so much also happening. Like there were so many games happening every single day that I feel like I wasn't as tuned into it as I could be, and now it's a lot more like streamlined.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, do you want to start there?
yeah, let's talk about the cup.
Okay. So you said off and on attention. What have you watched? What haven't you watched? What?
I've like been putting it on, and so I feel like my thing with the World Cup is that I've been more into the sport itself than actually like who's been winning and losing. I will say that in Boston we had the Scots
We
here.
did.
That
Oh,
was a
well, that's a whole
big
nother. Yeah.
that was a big thing.
The
It was
hosting part is a whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, like the hosting was a huge I get like my New York Times subscription and they were talking like they had like articles about like the World Cup and like the hosting responsibilities and everything. But it blows my mind because I feel like we had, the Scots here and they were having the time of their life. But then they were like the articles that I would read were about like Kansas City and I was like, I cannot fathom like this like international group of people being like, I'm so excited to go cheer on my team in the United States and going to Kansas City. And I said, we're both Midwesterners. So I say that as a Midwesterner.
I feel like the logistics, I mean, there's been a lot, like you said, published about whether the cities were prepared or not.
Yeah.
And there's been some, I think, coverage of that and snafus, but for the most part, the coverage I've seen since it started is more about the kind of like um, the cultural kind of exchange and just having a blast. Kansas City, like the big story I saw at Kansas City is that Algeria, who had their kind of like host site, you have the games, but you have like a place where you train and are based out of. Their
Mm-hmm.
base camp they put because they were playing two of their games in Kansas City. They did it in Lawrence, Kansas, which is nearby and is where the University of, or Kansas University is, KU.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I'm familiar with KU.
I'm, I'm saying
For
for the
for
listen.
other people, sorry, my bad.
Um, anyways, the town of Lawrence really embraced the Algerian national team.
Well,
They were
that's
attending their
nice.
practices, and so much so that like there was kind of a blending of like like there was an exchange of the Kansas University fan like KU fandom and Algerian national team
Oh,
fandom,
wow.
and like Rock Chalk Jayhawk is their big thing
Mm-hmm.
in basketball and everything else but basketball. And they were like saying Rock Chalk Algeria. I don't know much about the Algerian team. I know they did get through to the round of
Yeah.
32, but that's like, even in Kansas City, to your point, there are wins to be had.
And I think it's more like from what I've seen with in general everything with the World Cup is that it's not like the crazy things about the United States that people are like, wow, this is awesome. It's like very little things that like we don't even think about, and then people are like, whoa, that's so cool that that happens in the United States, and we're like, really, like that, like that's what's cool to you about the United States. And I feel like that exists in Kansas City. Like I'm trying to think of examples because it's like always like some of the most minor things and like we don't even think about it at all, but then like I'll see it on like social media that like all of these countries are like, whoa, went to the US and did this, that's so cool, and I'm like, really, that okay.
Yeah, I mean, even I think one of the best examples is the stadiums. Like,
Yeah, the sizing, right?
yeah, like we just have way more stadiums of large size than any other country, maybe
Yeah.
China, but like it's also like the fact that and some people point this out, like there are, um, I think 11 U.S. cities out of the 16 total, because we are co-hosting with Mexico and Canada, that are hosting games, and like they had to meet certain specifications, and all of them are places where we have like NFL teams. So
Yeah,
they're
so
like the
they are
NFL
vintage
stadiums.
stadiums. Yeah.
But the funny thing is, those NFL stadiums, like one, there are 20 more NFL stadiums, and
Mhm.
two, there's all the college football stadiums too. Like our biggest stadiums are technically the college football stadiums, like the Shoe in Columbus,
Yeah.
or like Michigan Stadium, like the Big House. Those host like 100,000 plus people, and
Yeah.
so like, yeah, they're not the most modern, but we have like, we could host three different World Cups and not reuse stadiums, and like have ginormous and or really hyper modern like settings for all of the things.
Yeah.
And like I think Americans take for granted how like how like widespread and prominent sports are in all parts of the country.
Yeah.
Whereas like
Absolutely.
I think even countries that have like top flight football leagues, like the Premier League and then Ligue 1 and in France and whatnot, like the big clubs might have a stadium on par with an NFL stadium, but a lot of
Yeah.
like the smaller clubs, it's like 30, 40,000 people.
I mean, it's interesting because we were also, to your point about like taking advantage of how widespread sport is. But earlier today we were talking about like in the hockey cafe, like what Sophie,
Mhm.
who's one of my best friends, Harrison's girlfriend, what her team should be for hockey. And
Oh yeah.
she's from Ohio, so we were like, you could go the Blue Jackets, but then like you're in Boston, so you could go the Bruins, you know. And so it's like interesting because you can pick like, oh, I grew up in Ohio, so it's like in the hockey scene, Columbus Blue Jackets, in the football scene, like the Cleveland Browns. You know,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
have like, you just have so many options, and like there are so many baseball teams, so many basketball teams. Like you have pretty much everywhere that you're from, like whatever state, there is a team affiliate, and like, or somewhere nearby where there's like a team affiliate, and then you like move cities, and then you're like, oh well, I could choose this team, or like you could just choose something else entirely. Like my favorite hockey teams are like in California, and I have no affiliation in California. And so it's like really cool it how here for pretty much every single sport, you have so many options of what team you could choose from. And like just based off of region, like you have access to a lot of good sport wherever you are. And I totally think people take that for granted. I think a lot of people take that for granted in Boston in particular.
Oh my god.
Is this city is crazy for sport. I think like people are very much on the Red Sox bandwagon, but not as much as they should be. Like there are a lot of people who I've talked to. We are so far into the season, and so many people are like haven't gone to a game yet. And I was like, your time is running out. And
They're
the
about
tickets,
halfway, yeah.
yeah, the tickets are cheap too, like comparatively to the rest of the Boston games that you could be going to. But it's like absurd to me where like Fenway Park is a walk from here, and it's a walk from pretty much most of my friends that live in the city. And I'm like, this is crazy that you haven't taken the time to like go experience this yet this season. It's such a summer thing too, like going to a baseball game, going to Fenway Park, getting a hot dog, getting a beer. So
But
yeah.
no, yeah, I think that has been, from the World Cup perspective, has been interesting to see the reactions to. I
Mhm.
don't know why, like online, I've seen the Europeans were kind of surprised we had nice stadiums. I don't know why they thought we didn't. Um, like I maybe they thought because we don't really care about soccer or football or whatever. In the same vein that like if we were putting it in our like soccer team stadiums, they would be small and kind of shabby. But no, we're playing them in like the really fancy. But also, we do have specific stadiums for the MLS teams, and they're not big, but they're all pretty modern at this point and nice. So
Yeah. Which I also like, I saw things about like the New York, New Jersey, or New Jersey. I know that's drama and it's fine.
MetLife,
MetLife
it's
Stadium.
MetLife
Yeah, the
Stadium,
MetLife Stadium.
where the Jets and Giants play.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
like I saw things about the MetLife Stadium, like the turf being questionable for like the final game and everything. And so like that I think is like people are probably like, but you know, because they're not built for soccer and like
Well,
yeah,
they, to be fair in that case, and it's kind of a tangent, but the turf at MetLife is not good for American football either.
that's fair.
It's infamous for giving, like, a lot of people have lower leg injuries on the turf
Um,
there, like torn ACLs, and
dang.
um
Oh,
so it was funny because they had to, FIFA made all the American stadiums that didn't have natural grass put in natural grass
Yeah.
for the tournament, and like they're playing on natural grass, albeit like newly planted kind of natural grass
Yeah.
at MetLife, or the generic names, New York, New Jersey Stadium.
I
But
think that yeah, they do both ways, where one side says New York, New Jersey, and the other side says New Jersey, New York.
I don't know. I know
Sorry,
FIFA
but
won't let you call it
crazy.
by the
Yeah,
sponsored name,
tangent, tangent.
regardless. Like even that new grass like isn't up to snuff maybe, but like it's better than the artificial turf they usually play on. And like NFL players are like, what the hell? Why can you go to all this effort for whatever? Anyways,
It's the World Cup, but yeah,
but like also if guys are tearing their knees up,
yeah, like it should be done. Yeah.
um, anyways, I think
Why do you know how that was like that stadium was chosen for the final?
yeah. So there's like capacity rules.
Mhm.
So like only you had to have above 80,000
Mm.
capacity. So that really widowed it down to I think three or four, like Estadio Azteca in Mexico City, SoFi in LA, and then AT&T Stadium in Dallas or Arlington, but like the Dallas area,
Mhm.
and maybe a couple others, maybe Atlanta. Like
So Boston was never a contender.
Boston's not big enough for the final. So that was like the thing. Like the final was going to be in one of those bigger stadiums. And I'm not sure what the final criteria were, but I know that like New York, New Jersey, or New York and New Jersey area is like, because it's America's biggest city. I think that was part of it.
Yeah.
Um, and
It's kind of easily accessible in terms of travel and everything
and
too.
it's more accessible, I would think, than aren't like Dallas's stadium is like even more suburban and like only accessible by car than like the complaints about MetLife have been that.
Yeah.
Like it's even worse. And
I'm
I don't
sure
know.
same thing in LA. Yeah.
LA, yeah, but I think LA like would have made sense.
Yeah.
Whether you would also avoid some there's fears about New York being too hot for the final.
Really, and that's not a concern for LA?
LA plays well. LA is more temperate actually in the summers.
Really? I
Well,
didn't
yeah,
know that.
because
I Southern California is lost on me. I don't go there.
we're way off base right now. But yeah, you get
Yeah, sorry. So
The thing about California is it's roughly or sorry, specifically the LA basin is that you get a temperate climate
yeah.
relatively. It can still get hot, but by the ocean you're gonna get like max 80 degrees most days.
Yeah. The last part of this tangent before we circle it back to the actual World Cup is I was just thinking about this like an hour ago of how I used to talk about how like the weather was such a boring topic of conversation that people would do all of the time. And now I feel like I talk about the weather so much every single day with every single person that I interact with. And I was like, did I just become the boring person that I like talked about when I was a kid? Like I think about the amount of times in a day that I bring up the weather and it is so much.
Well, that's a Midwestern thing.
Maybe I guess that
I mean,
is.
I think it's an everyone thing, but I
Yeah.
think Midwesterners love to talk about the potential storms in the afternoon in the summer and
Really,
tornadoes and yeah.
I like feel like I talk about where like it'll be silent and I'll be like, wow, like this weather is awesome. Or like the only thing that I have to contribute to any conversation is I'm like, and how about that weather?
Yeah.
So,
It's humid out there or whatever you say. Yeah.
mm,
Um I
okay, back to the World Cup.
oh,
Oh, well, no, you.
one last thought on the weather.
Yeah.
I think it just affects the mood of the day. And
Yeah.
so it if it's raining, people will bring it up. It's kind of annoying. If it's
Yeah.
warm, if it's nice out, it's like everyone's spirits are higher. But
Yeah. It maybe it's just like a recognition of how much the weather actually influences people's day to day. I feel like that's a big thing. Is I'm like you can see, you notice in especially in Boston where people like have to go outside for pretty much everything and have to walk outside for pretty much everything because we live like in, close to the heart of the city and everything. Like we are very impacted by the weather.
100%.
And
Yeah.
so I think that like here you can visibly like tell when like when the weather's bad, like the entire mood of the city just plummets. And then when the weather's good, like everyone's just in the best mood ever. Like the first thing people said when they walked in this morning to like the cafe was like, wow, that weather was great. Like it's so nice outside.
Mm,
Which is so funny. But
yeah. But anyways, the World Cup, the games themselves. You've been watching casually, you said.
yeah, I watched it at Cisco because I've been watching it in Spanish on Peacock. I don't
Oh,
know
because
if
it's
it's the same.
Telemundo. No,
Yeah.
I've been watching the Fox feed.
Okay. Yeah, watch it on in Spanish on Peacock because I don't have Fox. Which is funny because you can watch and you can see what's going on. And the one thing is that like whenever they say goal in like the
They
Spanish,
yell.
they yell and
Yeah.
it lasts for so
Yeah.
long. For like the first time that I had it on in the background, once I figured out it was on Peacock in Spanish, someone else around was like, "Are they still going? Like, is this the same goal that they are announcing?" And I was like, "Yeah, still going." But I went to Cisco yesterday and watched the England, who were they playing? Panama? I think it was
England is playing
England.
Panama, yeah.
England and Panama. I watched that game yesterday at Cisco in Fenway. And then we went to timeout and we watched the beginning of it was Colombia and Portugal, right? Was the
Hmm.
game. We watched the beginning of that game there, but I wasn't there long enough to see. Definitely not long enough before anyone scored or anything. So
Yeah, so those were the last few games. Not the exact last, but the last couple before the very last games of the group stage.
mhm.
Um, Coming into the tournament, there was a lot of discourse. They expanded it. Um, in our lifetime, they've had 32 teams
I
traditionally,
know.
and there's a whole qualifying process that's tied to where, like, what region you're in or continent for the most part. Um, and 32 was the number since I think the late 90s or the early 2000s.
Yeah.
It's expanded over time.
Yeah.
Um, and they jumped up for this from 32 to 48.
Yeah. I did hear that
And
today.
that's a big deal on multiple fronts. One, more, so you have more teams there. So there was a concern about diluting kind of the talent pool to an extent.
Mhm.
Like not the talent pool, you're like it's the countries or the countries of origin, but like the team quality, I should say. And so people were worried that there'd be like more blowouts or like really uneven matches. And then because it's 48 instead of 32, when it was 32 teams, it was very clean from the group stage to the knockouts. If you were in the top 2 out of 4 in your group, you moved on. If you
Mhm.
were third, you're done, right? With 48 teams, it's kind of gotten convoluted. So there's more groups but it doesn't even out well in that like they don't take 24 to go on.
Yeah.
For a clean bracket, they take 32.
Yeah.
So they're like top two still go through, but now it was 8 out of the 12 third place teams go through.
And yeah.
So it's like not only are there more teams who might be worse and you're getting more blowouts, but there was a concern about like what are the motivations going into the last match? Like are teams really like if you've already locked in a spot, are you going to really be fighting for it? Like
Yeah.
the brackets are so unclear. Like what is that going to be like? And I don't know. Like I know you weren't following beat by beat the groups, and so you probably weren't paying as much attention to that. I don't think the gameplay actually like suffered all that much,
Yeah.
at least from a viewer's perspective. But the last round of games definitely had some aspects that like traditionally wouldn't happen as often. Like the U.S. performed very well to get to itself to lock up its group early. That
Yeah.
could have happened in the other format, but like Turkey was then eliminated as well. The U.S. was playing a meaningless game versus Turkey
Yeah. I did. Yeah.
functionally,
That
so
I
it's just like kind of an odd thing that could have happened in the other format. The same thing happened. Germany had already locked up the group, and Ecuador, who traditionally would have been eliminated completely, like got to play against the German second team because Germany was resting its starters for the most part,
Yeah.
and then scored and won that game to go through. Where like that knocks out another team. It just
Yeah.
creates these oddities, and I don't have enough like nostalgia or whatever to really like care all that much. But it was something people were thinking about, and it probably format wise is not the cleanest because I
Yeah.
think it did make the group stage feel a little bit like what are we doing here? Because you played 12 times 6, you played 72 matches and only eliminated a third of the field from the groups.
Mhm.
So like now we have this like 32 team bracket, which is like somewhat determined by your performance in the group stage, but like a lot of those teams either weren't playing super well or whatever, and their bracket position is somewhat correlated with that. Like the better you played, theoretically, the better draw you get, but it wasn't that clean because you have to slot in the teams like in various ways, and so
Mm.
the games themselves fun to watch.
Yeah.
The like macro kind of like
The logistics and everything
leg-
behind the
yeah,
brackets.
and that's a little bit nitpicky, and I think for the average viewer, it probably doesn't matter as much. But now we're the knockouts. And
Yeah.
um, do you know like what teams did or didn't get through, or were you paying attention to that?
I'm looking at it right now.
You're saying it right.
I pulled it up. I was semi paying attention to that. I know that the US MNT has been doing a lot better than people expected them to this round. Or just like in general, I feel like there was not people were kind of like iffy about the US.
Yeah, yeah.
But I Canada made it through to the round of 16.
Canada won the first knockout game
Yeah.
today. They beat. I just watched this game just ended
Yeah,
in
I
real time, but
South Africa.
South Africa, one of those teams that would have like never gotten through the group stage, like the previous. To be honest, like it's
Yeah,
not.
no,
But they like were actually they might have ended up in second. It regardless. South Africa got through. Canada got second in their group and was playing them. Canada is a better team on paper, but isn't like astronomically better. This is
yeah,
again another quirk of this 32 team format where like the knockouts are usually reserved for like the highest quality teams, right? But
yeah,
you have like good teams but not great teams. So Canada was expected to win. That game was a slog for most of it. Canada was not very sharp.
yeah.
It was 0-0 literally until the added time in the second half. So it was like they added 5 minutes of added time, and Canada scored in like the 93rd minute and won.
Well, there you
It
go.
was looking like it was headed to extra time, which in soccer is a full extra 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then if you are still tied, you do the penalty kicks. So it was looking like I was going to be even later to record the podcast if I
Mhm.
had to watch the extra time. But Canada did score. And now we'll play the winner of Netherlands Morocco, which is
Yeah.
tomorrow. And probably will lose if I had to make a prediction.
For either of those teams, who's
Either of
favored
those
to win?
teams. Both of
And
those teams are very good. That's also a quirk of like the way the matchups work.
yeah, you're
Morocco or the
eliminating.
Netherlands would be favored against both the teams that played today.
Yeah,
So
but you're
yeah,
picking out one of them.
yeah. So like, uh, it's kind of inverted in that like Netherlands, Morocco, the winner of that is going to be a heavy favorite versus Canada.
Yeah. Which like not to so I a couple things about that. I do the athletic pick'em. I get the email notification for it.
Yeah,
And I got the one this morning for South Africa, Canada. And it was like 2% South Africa and like 98% Canada. And I
the
was like,
picks.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I was like, I mean, I don't even, I was like, I didn't even follow it that closely. And I was like, well, I guess I know what I'm picking. Um, but not to make everything about the NHL, but that's something that I feel like we like talk about with like the NHL too, with like their playoff format when we would talk about that before, where it's like you're eliminating one of two really good teams and then playing a very mediocre team.
yeah,
And
yeah. The
like,
way the bracket
yeah,
is set up matters.
yeah, it's important. And like
Um,
just for quality of the game too, like especially with something like this where you had people coming from all over the world and the US is hard to travel to. And so it's just like I feel like a crazy situation to be setting it up in this way to like your point about just everything with how this has worked so far.
yeah. The other quirk about the game today was that it was in Los Angeles.
Mm,
So that Canada is one of the co-hosts of the tournament. There's only two cities in Canada hosting games. It's Vancouver.
Vancouver and Toronto, right?
Exactly, yeah. But it like there was a bit of controversy around this online. Mexico won its group, the US won its group.
Hmm.
Both teams are going to play in their home countries at least for the first two rounds of the knockouts.
Hmm.
The US would do it for all of them. 11 out of 16 sites are in the US.
Yeah.
Um, Canada only has the two sites, and the way the bracket was set up, it was predetermined the sites based on like where you finished your group. You played in XYZ place. It wasn't determined after the teams were set. Canada, if they would have won their group, would have played in Canada for this round of games and
Hmm.
potentially even the next round. They got second in their group. So
Hmm.
they qualified through, but now they're playing in Los Angeles and I can't remember what other US city for their next game. And people were like, Canadians, I should say, were mad about this online, and people were kind of like debating even like the minutia of the tournament format, like whether hosts should be given preference in this case.
Interesting.
Um, didn't end up mattering, at least in this game.
Yeah.
At least in well, they won, I should say. But that was the only other like I think interesting piece of discourse from this game. Like you said, like the matchup on paper wasn't one that you would typically see.
Yeah.
And traveling from throughout the world to see like the highest quality matches, this wouldn't traditionally be in that category. I think
Yeah.
South Africa is the 60th ranked team in the world.
Interesting.
Canada's 30th.
Well, there you go.
Not like again, like,
Yeah.
but in any case, it was a big win for Canada. I think it's their first time ever making the final 16 of the World Cup.
Yeah.
It's only their second ever win at the World Cup. Um, and there are 15 more games in the round of 32.
Yeah.
Uh, I think if we want to talk about the World Cup, it probably is easiest to talk about what teams you or I think are going to go on, most impressive from the group stage of what you've watched.
I think you should lead.
I can lead.
Yeah, I think you should lead.
I will
I
say,
will be so much more tapped in. This is my FIFA baking series.
mm,
Once that kicks off, I'll be so much more tapped in with the World Cup.
and where
It
can
was just
people see that baking series?
oh, they can watch it on TikTok. Pooch Talks Puck on TikTok.
Hooch Talks Puck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not that Harrison follows it, but
I don't have TikTok, to be clear.
but I think it's also like there was just too many games happening all at once. I also had like a crazy on a side tangent. I had a crazy work week and wrapped up my like classes for grad school and everything. So this was the group stage of the World Cup came at probably the worst possible time for me to be following it at all. I'm free as a bird now. I'm gonna be a menace watching everything with the World Cup now. So
Well, there you go. I will say, so the I was talking about the dilution of the format. People were concerned about that.
mhm,
We still got a bunch of good games in the group stage. Historically, you could get punished for underperforming relative to expectations in the group
mhm,
stage because if you were in the way it was just drawn, if you got it put into a really hard group, sometimes they call them groups of death, like as
mhm,
in like there's 3 to 4 like good teams there.
mhm.
If you didn't win a game you were supposed to win, or drew a match, things like that could really hurt you. You could like get knocked out in the group stage or get a really bad seed in the round of 30 or round of 16 at the time. So that intrigue was a little bit lost. Like there was some really cool upsets in the group stage.
Mhm.
Upsets, not just like the worst team won, but sometimes the worst team drew. So like the biggest one you probably heard of was Cape Verde tied Spain.
Yes, that was right off the bat, right?
It was
That was the
very
very
early.
beginning of the group stage.
Ridiculous result, like in and like the Cape Verde goalkeeper like saved 20 something shots, like absurd.
Yeah, my dad was like, his mind was blown by
It
that
was
because I was in Georgia
it
for
was in
a
Atlanta, yeah.
my God.
Yeah.
Like, the entire for like days, he was like, I still can't believe that happened.
So
Yeah.
anyway, huge result. Spain like ended up winning their next 2 games. So they would have gone through in any format. But like that kind of upset was diluted a little bit. Cape Verde did get through
Mhm,
as the second place team, so they would have gone through in any format. So that was
mhm.
really cool. Um, the other like big teams underperforming a little bit included Portugal, who drew 2 of their matches, 1-1. Really got outperformed last night against Colombia, but drew. Um, they might not have gone through in another format. They got through. England was very good, but relative to their expectations, which was coming in, they were one of the favorites. Was a little underwhelming in their last 2 matches. They did end up beating Panama, but they drew Ghana
Yeah.
in Boston.
And they only scored 62 minutes into yesterday's game.
Yes,
There was yeah.
there was a little bit of like uneasiness because
Mhm.
they were very likely to get through in any scenario, but like there was just a little bit of like, why are we struggling with Panama's not like a
Yeah.
terrible team, but isn't going to match up talent wise to England. So,
Yeah.
anyways, there was a bunch of like big teams that struggled. The ones that really didn't were Argentina. They looked really, really strong against all 3 opponents, and they played kind of their B team last night. Messi came in the second half and
I
scored.
did. I heard about
Um,
it. Yeah.
France played up to more than just like their normal expectations. They were phenomenal against some pretty good teams too. I think they won all 3 of their matches by multiple goals.
Mhm.
Um, Spain looked good in their last 2, but underwhelmed in their first game. And Brazil actually like looked very good. They tied their first game against Morocco, who's a very good team, but then were very dominant in their next 2 games.
Mhm.
And so the favorites are kind of trying or looking to separate themselves. we'll get a round of games in the round of 32 that, for the most part, has some interesting matchups, but will have some really uneven matchups as well.
Mhm.
Some of the more interesting games are the ones I talked about earlier. Morocco and the Netherlands is a good game. We're going to have Mexico and Ecuador later. Um, we have the United States playing against, in a bit of an uneven matchup on paper, against Bosnia and Herzegovina, um, which they should win, but is more interesting for the kind of intrigue of um, how much momentum can the U.S. pick up as the host?
Mhm.
What are they going to look like after losing their last group stage match, albeit not playing their starters?
Mhm.
Uh, and I can't think of what. Do you have the matchups pulled up?
I do.
Can I see them one more time? I don't
Yeah.
want to forget any.
There you go.
And then yeah, there's a couple more of interest, but for the most part,
Those are the
uneven.
big ones. Yeah.
Some those are some of the biggest ones. Portugal Croatia is a good matchup. Brazil Japan is going to be a good matchup, but some of these, barring a major upset, would be should be like easier wins for the favorites, such as England, DR Congo, Argentina, Cape Verde would be shocking, shocking. That would be,
Yeah.
and then Spain should beat Austria. Those types of things. France and Sweden. Those Germany, Paraguay. Those games should be going to the favorites.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple that are just kind of like this Canada South Africa matchup where it's like neither team is amazing, but like could go through and probably will lose their next game. That's sort of like Switzerland, Algeria, Australia, Egypt. Those are all fine teams, but aren't going to like necessarily make a ton of.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I think there'll be more interesting things to talk about if we do another podcast once we're at the round of 16, because
I mean, we totally.
we could,
I
because
mean,
you'll
that's
whittle.
what? That's next week.
That's next week. It all happens very quickly, actually. And once you get to the
It ends
knockouts.
this Friday. If we film another episode after this Friday, that we're in the round of 16. So
Yeah. So, anyways, like I think the round of 32, because of the new format, has some. It's like a mixed bag because
mhm.
the matchups aren't kind of set by performance. They're kind of predetermined based on where
Yeah.
you. Well, I mean, it is based on performance, but it's kind of arbitrary relative to which groups are stronger than the others.
Yeah.
You get some of this like weird unevenness where there's like a couple really good games in this round, but most of them are going to be either really uneven on paper or between two teams that are not bad, but are
Yeah.
not necessarily like top flight, like top tier teams, which in the old knockout format wasn't usually the case. You might have one or two snoozers in the round of 16, but for the most part, you were getting top tier matchups through and through.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Um, if I had to make a prediction, and we don't have to do predictions if you don't want, but
No, do it.
I think we'll get France going very far. They've looked very strong. And just with how the brackets lined up, Argentina's in a very good position to go far as well. So I think we could see a repeat final of 2022. Um, and relative to the Americans, just because we're the hosts and that's the team I'm cheering for, it will be a very successful tournament if they get to the quarterfinal and play most likely Spain, where they would likely lose. There, it'd be disappointing if they lost the round of 32 game.
Yeah.
If they lose in the round of 16, I would be disappointed, but that's about on par.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I think I'll be interested to watch. I'm going to try to fit it all in with work, like you said, and travel. We're right around the July 4th holiday. So,
Yeah. The final, they conveniently are not playing any games while we're gone. No, well, I guess the final is the day.
final will be on a no, it's on a Saturday, isn't it?
No, it's on a Sunday, the 19th.
Okay, so we will be back.
So we have to base our travel back based on the final.
It's going to be at like 3 p.m. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to Maine that weekend. And so we'll have to figure out when we're coming back based off of when this game is.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. So that's the World Cup.
yeah.
And we're halfway through, or maybe not. We can end it early, but other sports going on.
I feel like yeah, maybe we do a quick run through because I feel like the World Cup is the most.
World Cup is definitely the most important right
Yeah.
now.
We had the US Open.
The U.S. Open happened in golf. Uh, a bit of a letdown tournament.
Yeah.
I will say I didn't get to watch it super closely. I was traveling. Um, the larger narrative is that the winner was Wyndham Clark,
Hmm.
who is. Have you heard of Wyndham Clark?
Never.
Wyndham Clark is a good player. He won the U.S. Open in 2023
Hmm.
when it was played in Los Angeles. Um, but otherwise, he's a like a let's call him a top 20, top 15 type player. He's not
Yeah.
like top 5 in the world necessarily week to week or but unfortunately the kind of narrative of the tournament had more to do with the course and the weather conditions than
Here we go with the weather again.
individual players. In golf, the weather is a very important factor. So,
With any, I feel like,
yeah,
yeah, like tennis too. The
tennis
weather's
too, but
huge.
in golf you kind of play through the conditions unless there's a major storm.
Yeah.
And the courses are very temperamental.
Yeah.
So they were playing the tournament in Shinnecock Hills, which is a course on the end of Long Island,
Hmm.
and is kind of famous for being really like finicky. It's a hard course.
Yeah.
Um, the first day in particular was very windy and very rainy. And there, most guys that day struggled. Most players posted above par.
Yeah.
Wyndham Clark got to play in a very advantageous window weather-wise, where it was clearer. I think it was a little later in the day, so things like the greens
Mm.
softened up. He wasn't dealing with as much wind, and he posted the best score on the day. He was like I think 6 under par. He kind of rode that day to a lead and then kept that lead, which he needed to play well in the other 3 days too to win, but kind of has tainted the perception of the win like among golf fans because other guys who were maybe favorites going to the tournament, Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, like kind of big names, struggled in that initial day.
Yeah.
And albeit like Rory McIlroy had a terrible final day, wasn't a factor. Scotty did perform well. Um, but the tournament kind of felt like it was more about the course and the conditions than the players, which isn't really what you want.
Yeah.
You want to see guys come through because they performed well. But
Yeah.
um, it is what it is. Golf is hard to win for like big names, and the tournaments aren't only good if the big names win. But um, Wyndham Clark won the U.S. Open,
Well, there you
so
go.
there's
That's such a golf name.
Wyndham Clark. Yeah, it's
That's
been
a
commented on.
that is a golfer name.
The only other thing I'll mention about Wyndham Clark, and slightly
I need to
interesting,
look him up.
he is kind of disliked in the golf community for various reasons, but one of them is that he is kind of a hothead.
Mm.
He last year at the U.S. Open, which was played at it just outside of Pittsburgh at Oakmont Hills, I think is the name of the course. Another very difficult course. The U.S. Open is often a difficult course. He had a terrible tournament. He didn't make the cut. He was really bad. It's a hard course. But on the second day when he didn't make the cut, he kind of threw a temper tantrum in the locker room and like
Mm.
broke a locker and was like throwing things and all these things. It was banned from the course, I believe,
Oh
and
my
like fined a
God.
lot of money by the PGA. Really, really uncommon kind of behavior in golf. Usually it's like, there's a code of conduct. Like it's an individual sport. There's not as much like um it's not like other sports where you'll get like hockey where you'll get fights and stuff like that. So this was
Yeah.
like kind of out of nowhere.
There are most sports are not like hockey where you
No,
yeah,
no. But
yeah.
even golf is even more like respect the game, respect the course, like
Yeah.
behave yourself kind of thing. And he like really went out of bounds on that. And so it was seen as like kind of an embarrassing moment for him. He's a major winner before this even. And so like you could look at this like a redemption, but for some people, like they just don't like him because of that and other
Yeah.
things.
That makes sense.
So anyways, that's golf. There's another tournament this weekend that's like pretty major. It's called the Travelers that's been in Connecticut.
Hmm.
It's literally wrapping up right now. I don't know who's winning, but it was between Scotty Scheffler and Victor Hovland. Were the two leaders coming into the day. Hovland, and this is a World Cup connection, is Norwegian and actually has like this cadre of Norwegians who were like in the U.S. for the World Cup who were at the
Yeah.
tournament cheering for him. So that's kind of
Well,
fun.
there was a lot of Norwegians at Cisco yesterday.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So golf will have its like week to week tournaments, and then the next big one is going to be um, the British Open or the Open,
Yeah.
which is in the third weekend of July, I believe. Um, yeah. Anything on golf? that you
I
have?
don't think so. I'm watching round four suspended. I'm looking up the
Must have
Travelers.
been raining in
Yeah.
Connecticut. Who is winning?
Um, Scotty Scheffler.
Hmm. Yeah.
Victor Hovland's tied for third with
Oh,
Wyndham Clark.
so Hovland was in the lead coming into the day.
Yeah.
So he must be a little bit over par, or Scotty's having a really good day.
Yeah, tied for third with Wyndham Clark.
Well, there you go.
hmm
Um, so, anyways, that's golf. And
The only thing I have to say about baseball is that the Red Sox won three out of their four games. The fourth one's tonight, so who knows? But against the Yankees at home. And no one else, because none of my other friends really, none of my friends aside from you really follow sport. But all of my friends, no one understood how big of a deal that was to me. I was like, no, you don't get it. The Red Sox are the worst in their division. The Yankees are the best in our division, and the Red Sox have notoriously done terribly at home. I was like, you don't understand. And then everyone was like, yeah, cool, girl. Like, sure. And I was like, no, this is huge. And everyone was like, nah,
it's a big deal. Like even when if the Red Sox were the worst team in baseball and the Yankees were the worst team in baseball, the games between them would still be meaningful.
yeah, it's the
Uh,
biggest. It's such a big rivalry.
it is like in the context of the Red Sox season, it's kind of a drop in the bucket
Yeah.
because like they've been
Well,
so disappointing.
yeah.
But you will take a series win against the Yankees. You'll especially take a sweep if you can get it, which would
Yeah.
be tonight's game.
Yeah.
Um, the Red Sox are a talented team. The Yankees are also very talented, and so it's nice to see them perform up to expectations in that sense.
Yeah.
Maybe you can start a little bit of rally about it. The nice thing about baseball is it's a marathon, not a sprint, and the American League is very mediocre this year. So
Yeah.
the Red Sox could use this to generate some momentum and maybe push for a wild card spot.
Yeah.
The division, even though you're kind of taking games away from the division winner there, is probably not going to be within reach just because you've kind of dug yourself a hole.
Yeah.
But yeah,
They just did not start off strong.
no, and injuries have been bad, but
Yeah.
like guys who were
Fine.
supposed to perform have not been performing.
Yeah.
They have some gaps in their pitching staff.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think what the only thing I'll say about baseball um, is we are almost to the halfway mark, and then just after the halfway mark is the All Star break.
hmm
I think, in my opinion, baseball really hits its stride in July. The other sports all end, and you have kind of baseball has its own window. The All Star break's a lot of fun. I don't know if you've ever watched MLB All Star festivities. It's really worth it to try to watch the Home Run Derby, which is a lot of fun.
I did. Wait, I saw something about that.
They'll announce the participants soon.
Yeah.
The All Star participants are going to be announced like soon. It's fan voting, and then they do the reserves through coaches and whatnot.
Yeah. Okay. 4 hours ago. It's in Philadelphia. Okay.
Yes, yeah, the All Star game's in Philadelphia. It's in a couple weeks. Um,
Wow.
so All Star festivities are worth watching. You should pay attention. It's like a lot of fun. The Home Run Derby, and then even the All Star game in the MLB. I know in other sports it's kind of like
Yeah,
struggle
they
to
took it away in hockey.
yeah, in hockey they don't
Yeah.
even play it, and the NFL like it's basically dead. And the NBA there's like all this discourse about how no one
Yeah.
plays hard. And the MLB because it's a sport that's harder to get injured playing, not impossible, but like and the pitchers in the All Star game only pitch one inning at a time. Like you kind of get the best of on best, which is like rare. So it is
Mhm.
also like kind of cool to watch the All Star game. And then after the All Star game is like the 2 to 3 week window before the trade deadline.
Yeah.
And that is like crazy in baseball because unlike some sports where trades are more difficult, or it's like for draft assets, you're trading for prospects in baseball. And so there's all these things that are unlocked and a lot more trade volume that happens um, every year. So, like, a bad team might trade half their roster, like their best players. And
You think
like
that could happen to the Red Sox?
maybe the Red Sox are a bit of an odd case. Like I said, they could still technically push for a playoff spot, and they have a lot of expensive players, which are
Yeah.
harder to trade. Um, but like, who's a good example of like a for sure seller this year? Um, the Royals are probably going to be trading some guys, or the Angels 100% will be.
Yeah.
Like teams that are like not going to make the playoffs, probably don't want to be carrying a bunch of expensive guys through the end of the year. Like
Yeah.
we'll try to dump those guys for prospects who like could help them next year or in most cases a couple years down the line.
Yeah.
Um, and then the good teams are trying to plug gaps. So it can lead to some really interesting scenarios and um, allegiances flipping very quickly for players. Like there's players that get traded almost every year. They're just like kind of a middle of the end of the roster type veteran who like isn't going to command like a multi-year contract, but like gets these 1 year contracts. And if they're playing well, will get traded to a contending team to potentially help them with the playoff push.
Yeah.
So those dynamics will be fun to watch if you're going to be following baseball. And then it'll be like the stretch of the season, which is August and September, which can be a slog if your team is bad. So the Red Sox hopefully can stay in the playoff race.
Yeah. This
But
is I feel like that's like the time. I'm not moving this August and September, so I'm Red Sox locked
so
in.
you really don't want the Red Sox to be sellers of the deadline. If
Yeah.
they trade some of their best players, August and September are either going to be boring or depressing or both.
Oh, great.
So that is like of close consideration. You should pay attention to like
Yeah.
um but yeah, that's baseball as I see it
Yeah.
right now. There's obviously more to talk about, but I think you would need to orient yourself maybe a little bit before we would be able to dive in
The
together.
next episode. I'm dialed this week. It's 4th of July. I'm ready.
Well, hockey just ended. There was the
That's
draft.
true. The draft was taking up so much space in my brain. I love the draft. I love the like I think it's so fun.
Yeah.
I get like the NHL notifications, and so I would just get notifications every time someone was traded, and I was like, oh my god, like that's like which the NHL made some crazy trades. Like they and like I know that I'm a newer fan, and so it's like obviously this is crazy to me, but like just in general across like older fans too, they were like, what is going on in the NHL right now? Like they have been just like I don't know, going great. The Kachuk's has been the big one where
Mhm.
everyone was like, and that one I feel like really kicked off like a series of like crazy trades. It just started right there with Brady Kachuk going to the Panthers. Um,
Yep.
which I think was interesting. And I will leave my opinions on like the Kachucks and the Panthers out of this, but I think it was interesting because right after the Senators were out of the playoffs, he was like, I'm committed to this team. I want to be in this team. And like their GM was like, he's not leaving. Like that's nonsense. And then, you know, a few weeks later for him to be traded. And like that's I mean, I don't personally care. I'm not like a huge Senators fan to like really personally care about that. But I do think that it's like kind of I don't blame people for being I know there's a lot of like emotions around like fans regarding that and I don't blame people for being upset about that when you care so much about that team because I know if someone on the Bruins was like after they got knocked out of the playoffs was like no I care if David Pasternak was like I care about this team I want to be with this team like I don't want anybody questioning it and then he got sent to some crazy team that I like was not the biggest fan of I'd be like what was that what did you
Well,
just do there
yeah. I don't know enough about how powerful players are to demand trades and where they get to go in the trades in the NHL, but
I think they're getting more powerful. I will say I am more of a fan of the Senators now because the Sharks, who I love, traded William Eklund to the Senators, and I love William Eklund. So
well, there you go.
yeah.
Nice.
All right.
Cool.
Well, on just under 50 minutes, we did good. Well, thank you so much for watching. We will be back at some point with another episode.
Yep.
So we'll catch you guys next time.